I mean, I think today was amazing. You know, Hedkandi has always been great to work with. And so it was lovely. I will say sometimes as an educator, we encounter resistance for various reasons. Maybe people are particularly attached to another product line, or maybe they've been educated in a way where what I'm teaching goes against what they've just learned. And that can create a lot of cognitive dissonance, and it's really hard for us to reconcile sometimes ideas that seem to be in opposition to each other. There was none of that today. None of that with this group, which is remarkable because I know they've had other curly education, and I don't know, maybe it speaks to an open mind and to a good attitude when they're able to say, that's like the opposite of what I just learned, but let me try and learn both. And it's not either or, it's both and. And I think that's really cool. I do think that stylists today particularly talked about being willing to blend techniques, and that's great. The fact that they can juggle multiple ideas in their head is pretty incredible. It speaks very highly of them. So I think it was great energy in the room. We had great questions from people, which I always appreciate. I'm like a product nerd and an ingredient and formula and technology. And not everybody's into that, and so I apologize to everyone in the world who finds that tedious or boring, because I love it, and I'm going to talk about it. But we had some good questions. It seemed like people were into it. I think that we have a big opportunity as hairstylists to deepen our product knowledge and elevate our offering to our clients. That it seems like here at Hedkandi, they're really willing to take that opportunity and do that. So that's cool. So I have a really good friend who's a makeup artist. She's a collaborator, and she's a swing dancer for years. And we were together a while back, and she was explaining to me and showing me what the relationship between the lead and the follow dancer are, and how they really have to connect and be in touch with each other, because they're, what's happening involves both of them. And we use that analogy to relate to tension on curly hair today, because super curly hair, when you stretch it out and put tension on it, you have to be really careful how much tension you're applying, because if you pull it out too much and cut off too much and it constricts too much, that can be a big problem. And you have to feel tension. It's a feeling thing. And that made me remember what Kavita told me about a lead and a follow feeling each other and dancing together. So I tried to remember that today, specifically with Delia's hair, which was highly textured. It's like a type 3 curl. I pulled it out and then let it constrict and take my hand back with it a little bit, and then find that point where you can feel that the tension it's neither too slack nor am I pulling on it too much. It's right there in that sweet spot. And it's like a dance, like a lead and a follow. They have to do it together and feel each other. So yeah, sometimes an seemingly unrelated image helps us understand a concept with hair. And I find as an educator that using mental pictures like that, or mental images, really helps illustrate for people, because we do tend to be visual thinkers, hairstylists do. So anything you can do that paints a picture helps. I am a language person, and not everybody follows that or learns that way. Some people need a soundtrack, like how our friend Kobe talks. Make it less, more and you're like, oh, I get it. Whatever it is, I get it. So sometimes it's about that, sometimes it's about a mental picture, like two dancers, like a lead and a follow. I mean, that's a big one for me. This space that we set aside for ourselves and this time that we set aside for ourselves for education is so important, because we're artists, but we're also in commerce. We sit right at that intersection. And so, when you're a busy hairstylist, a side effect of success is that you have less and less time to play and explore and try things that you aren't sure yet are gonna work. If you're booked solid all day, every day, there is no room for that. You have to stick to what you know. And this ironic thing happens where usually our repertoire actually gets smaller instead of bigger. and we start to rely on what makes us successful. Like, what are those 3 or 4 haircuts that are like the hits? Same thing with colorists. Like, what is that balayage technique that all of your clients are going to love and pay you for? That means we're successful, but it also means we aren't experimenting or exploring as much anymore. And so I love that we set aside this time for ourselves, where we're doing hair for us, and where it's okay to struggle and it's okay to slow down. I will say, not to make everything about the pandemic at some point, but the pandemic in New York City, when we first reopened, the salon was open, but we had a lot of restrictions for everybody's safety. And so that meant that we couldn't double book at all. And it meant that we had to book extra time, I think it was 15 minutes or something, in between every client for sanitation. And what that meant is I had a lot of air in my schedule, which my whole career I had always been trained and taught and conditioned to maximize revenue by packing your book. And this was the opposite of that. And I realized I liked it, having more time and space to just be an artist and noodle around and try things and not worry. Like, if I pick up a product that's new to me and it doesn't do what I think it's gonna do, not worry that if I have to go back to the shampoo bowl, I'm hooked for the day. So that I think is really cool, that opportunity that we have in education to just slow down and just be artists. I think the educational landscape is changing dramatically right now, and I have to be careful how I think and talk about this because I don't want to sound disparaging. But the fact is, attention spans are shorter now, and again, in the post-pandemic, if we want to call it that, in the Reconstruction era, I think that everybody has reconsidered how they want to spend their time. They've rethought it and rethought it again and rethought it again and rethought it again. And also, salons now are really trying to maximize revenue time. And so that's happening. Plus, I have complex and sometimes very strong feelings on this. Social media. I think short form social media in the beauty space has resulted in a situation where content is being created to suit the platform, not because it is particularly educationally brilliant or relevant or enlightening or insightful. And I think that attention spans are just shorter. Like, I'm old school, and I'm not saying this is better. This is just how my brain works. I'm old school. I would like to watch an hour-long video on YouTube of like a Gemological Institution of America talk on inclusions in emeralds. Like, I like stuff like that. I want to watch a video on how to bake a cake from start to finish that is 30 minutes long. I like that.
Not the 30 second.
I don't want to watch the 30-second hack. It's hacks.
Yeah.
And I'm like, there's no context. It's a small piece of like what can be a very complex puzzle. And you're missing a lot if you're not involving the other pieces of the puzzle. A hands-on class is an entirely different educational experience from a look and learn or from just watching a video online. It's totally different when you get your hands in there yourself. And we see more and more, maybe this is related, we see people getting very frustrated in classes because they're like, I know how to do this. And I'm like, you don't know how to do what you're trying to do right now, otherwise you wouldn't be so frustrated. So take a breath. It's okay to struggle. We're in class. You don't have 10 clients waiting. Compare and despair. That is another social media thing, comparing and despairing. Because what you're seeing is everybody's greatest hits reel. And then when you come into class in person and you're trying to do something for the first time you've ever done it, that's not going to be your greatest hit of anything. And it does make people self-conscious, especially if the person next to them happens by total happenstance to be comfortable with whatever I'm trying to show them. Maybe they already know it or they've done it, something like it. I try to really set the tone that this is a safe space. It's an educational space. You are not going to do the best work you've ever done. Nobody expects you to impress anyone in this room. That is not what we're here for. Put that out of your minds now. Like, this is not an ego space at all. Later for that, when you get good at it. Here we have to all mutually agree that we're safe together to try something for the first time that we might struggle with. I think that's important. We have to get more comfortable with being uncomfortable. It sounds nuts, but it's true. It's really true. Because if you're comfortable all the time, you're probably not growing, you know? Comfortable is nice, but it's not how we grow. So, retailing. It's like very stressful and uncomfortable for some of us. And it's like an unfortunate like expectation that people didn't sign up for, and then they become a hairstylist and they're like, I have to sell products? That's not what I do. And you know, and conversely, some people are so naturally comfortable with it and totally fine. It's a complete coincidence, like, you know. And so what I always tell everybody is, like, that word sales, selling, like, put that out of your mind, because it isn't really what we have to do. And I realized this early in my career because I worked at a full service hair, skin, and nail operation, a big salon. And I noticed, when I was an apprentice, I noticed, because we ran production reports, that the retail to service numbers were always higher in the skin department than they were in the hair department. Not the dollar number I'm talking about, because skin products are expensive, everybody knows that, but the pieces per client. And I thought to myself, like, what are the estheticians doing that we're not doing? There's something consistently, like it's a training thing or something that they're doing that we're just not doing. So I got a facial to find out what they were doing. And it just blew my mind. Like, the whole hour that we spent together was a consultation. And every product that got used on me got explained in detail. And the depth of knowledge that they have about their products is about the science behind it, the R&D, the particular ingredients, where the ingredients are from sometimes, and why this product is the best vehicle for that ingredient, how the ingredients are going to work on my skin. I was told all about my skin. I was told exactly how to apply product and where and how long to expect before I could see results. It was such a depth of knowledge, and it was all about me, the client, and my needs and my problems and how are we solving them. It was extraordinary. And I was a baby apprentice with no money, frankly. And by the end of that service, it was not even a question. I was absolutely buying all those products. And like, I was in my early 20s. I've been using high-end skincare since my early 20s because of that. And absolutely all that money I spent has paid off in my life. Like, in the long term, it pays off. And at no point was anything sold to me. At all. They don't sell products. That's not what they do. What they do is above that. They imbibe themselves with curiosity about products and about ingredients and about science and research. And they learn about skin. And they learn about how these products change skin. And they have a depth of knowledge that is truly impressive, and they share this with all of their clients, which, as far as I'm concerned, is the highest level of service. They don't concern themselves with how much these products cost, because they understand how much a client wants to spend is entirely up to them. And weirdly, hairstylists, I think, get hung up on that sometimes. And I'm always telling people, you gotta get out of your client's purse. It is none of your business how much money they want to spend, and it's not up to you to decide. Like, that's on them. They'll decide. Our job and our highest level of service is to ask the questions, listen to what their problems are, and to suggest the solutions, and say, this product is in fact the best solution for the problem you're having because, and you drop the knowledge. You don't have to sell anything. We don't have to sell anything at all. And I will tell you, at the risk of sounding some kind of way, like, I'm in my salon now in New York City, very part-time, and I win retail competitions all the time, and I'm never there. Like, it's hysterical how few products some people are successfully putting in clients' hands, and I guess conversely, how natural it becomes when you have the knowledge. And the hard part, I guess, is that we have to then develop that curiosity and learn the knowledge. And it is, especially with a line like Oribe, there's a lot to learn. It's a huge amount of information to learn. So that's the hard part sometimes in education, is getting people to really care enough to get deep into it. And I will say, I think part of what enables stylists to stay in those habits where they're doing the kind of bare minimum is the client expectation. There's a symbiosis between the two. And I mean clients at large, for example. For a long time, I would have clients come in for a haircut when really they wanted the blowout. And like they'll let their haircut go 2 weeks over or whatever because they know they've got that thing coming up that they want to blow out for. And they're like in it for the blowout. And I've had some conversations with clients where I'm like, you're missing the point. Like, I'll give you a blowout anytime. If you want a blowout, book a blowout. I love doing blowouts. I'll blow your hair out every week. Come get a blowout. But on haircut day, I'm not blowing your hair out. That's when I've got things that I'm gonna teach you and show you that are about how you're gonna do your hair. So unless you're giving yourself a blowout, which almost nobody is, like, that's not what I'm gonna show you. And I've had a few where I'm like, I'm not giving you a blowout. I'm not doing it. Come back Friday, I'll give you a blowout. So, you know, not in a rude or awkward way, but in a way where I'm like, you need to understand how much I have to offer, and you don't. So I'm gonna show you and I'm gonna tell you. And you can change a person's life if you change their morning. And you can change their morning if you teach them how to do their hair in a way they can actually do it. Do you know what I mean? So, so this is a big adjustment for a lot of clients, the changing the expectation, so that not only do we on our side know how much we can offer, but they understand how much they can get from us. I think in New York it's a little different because there's blow dry bars on every corner. In fact, this is interesting. So my salon is in Chelsea in New York City on 20th Street. Right around the corner on 21st, a 2-minute walk away, there's a Dream Dry, the Rachel Zoe blow dry place. They use Oribe Haircare, and I trained them. They charge $35 for a blowout. I charge $90 for a blowout. So, and I don't have anything against the blow dry bars. I think that's great. Like, I think it's cool that a nice blowout has become like accessible and affordable to the every woman. But what I charge $90 for, they charge $35 for. That means I need to be doing something different. I need to be doing something more. I need to elevate. Otherwise, why would they come to me? So what I'm offering them is a deeper level of product knowledge. I'm offering them the opportunity to learn how to, for example, in a New York summer when it's jungle humidity and it's awful, how to set up their hair for an air dry that will look beautiful all day long. And that's about product. It's not about a blowout. It's not about a tool or a brush. I think that we are in an industry that is evolutionary. It's always changing. And that's why education is so important. I think that the kaleidoscope is always turning, especially now with social media, which this is another sort of side effect of social media changing the way that it has. Trend cycles are much faster than they used to be. It used to be like a trend cycle would be 6 months or a year. Now it's more like 6 weeks. Like, because of TikTok, you have rapidly cycling trends. So we really need to be willing to learn and be willing to try things that we haven't tried before. Or some of us who have been in the industry a little longer, be willing to revisit things that have been repackaged and renamed as a new TikTok trend, but we know what that is, like we remember it from before. I think of it as a kaleidoscope that's always turning. And so, yeah, I mean, I hope that as the kaleidoscope turns, we can really inspire our compatriots, hairstylists, to be interested in elevating, in deepening their product knowledge and opening their minds to new techniques and to revisit old techniques and mine what we can out of them, those pieces that we can take into the next evolution. I hope we can do that. And I hope we can get clients at large to understand what the opportunity is for them, because, you know, there's a lot that they're not getting yet. And so I hope that that changes. I think it is changing. That's why I'm doing what I do. The kaleidoscope is just turning faster. And so you'll get left behind faster. Like, you know, it used to be that you could slow down and like catch up. It's getting harder to do that. It's easy to get left totally behind really quickly. And I think that it's normal for there to be tension between the older generation and the younger, because no matter what window of time you're looking at or what industry or whatever you're looking at, that's always the case. There's always going to be tension between the old ones and the young ones. I think that's normal. I think the Gen Z fascinates me. They have different priorities that are unique to them. They have a different work ethic that's unique to them. I don't think it's bad. I'm not going to say anything disparaging about it. I like the Gen Zs a lot. I think they're very cool. They're very different for a youth generation. But to your point, they are coming up, and the millennials to a certain point too, are coming up in a time where success can be microwavable. Like in the space of a year, you can become a millionaire. And I mean, sometimes it's about buckling down. Sometimes it's about just having the right vibe or the right energy or having a viral moment that is a complete coincidence. So I think it's very fascinating. And I do think that the older generation suffer from resentment toward the younger generation because they have this opportunity that me and older didn't have. So like, we're going deep. We're getting into some deep, big stuff here. But so speaking for myself, I happen to be 42. I am what they call Xennial. I'm either the youngest Gen X or the oldest millennial. I was born in 1980. I remember, you know, as a latchkey kid, like my parents were kind of boomers. And I remember being inculcated with this work ethic of work hard and prosper, get a job, stay in it for years or decades, and you work hard and you prosper. You work hard, make money, work hard, make money. The Gen Zs are not wired like that at all. They are not motivated at all by that. They're motivated by time off, which I think speaks to the fact that they have an understanding that allows them to say, I'm not waiting for later. I want to have the life that I want to have right now because I don't know what the future holds. Like, the planet might burn down by the time they come up. Who knows? Well, that's a little fatalistic, but I think they call it hustle culture and they don't want to be part of it. I think that's a very fascinating point of view on what my generation considered normal. This is how you succeed. So, you know, it's unique, it's a different lens, and I think it's fascinating.